Well. Just another day here, chilling. Want to know how you guys are doing. Just figuring out all this other stuff, the music, going through the motions, not freaking out. Just trying to make this all work. And so we got the system set up. It took a minute. I wanted to take a second and reflect because it was just what everybody says when they're messing with this stuff. It could be your luck, it could be chaos, or you create it by saying what you want, but you don't plan it. So here is just me looking at it, figuring it out, asking, am I doing it right? Am I pushing forward? Am I gonna break it today? What am I making? I just kept asking myself, like, what am I doing here? So I started, playing around, throw some code. I try to do code, here at the server level. I try to use code from different sources that, you trust. And now things are looking better. You can get a lot of these things structured if you, what's the phrase? Play your cards right. And I'm not using anything you can't use because I'm trying to say, like, hey, what's the easy way? Is it this one? Oh yeah, let me fix this a little bit. Right? And this thing is just how we do it. Why is this still? This needs to be a little bit more smaller. Yeah. So we want to move that over because I think this is more centered than that video. I think I was trying to center it with the that's pretty centered. Anyway, that's what I was trying to do. But I didn't want to make it too small. I wanted to make sure it fits. That's fine. Change it from here. Just getting used to the multitude of different things you can do on this platform for OBS. I got my first screen, which is pretty much everything. If you look at my desktop right now, it just looks, you can't see everything. It's just overstacked. But I really told myself, I said, man, if I'm going to try to document this thing and have people actually watch it, it's got to be, production value. You kind of have to sit down and put it together. And that's what I was doing. I sat down right where I was going to do my normal stream, and I said, you know what? I really kind of have to make this look a little better, a little cleaner. You can see the sections here, and look at that. You're not doing anything, but this is in your computer. Your location. I'm using a spare drive, and I try to have fun with it. Can you see the sections? We can go to the beginning, right? How far can you go? You can go all the way to the front. Go into Destiny. Once you're in there, you got Upper Deck, right? That's where all the top brass, bridge crew, officers, department heads, manager, security, and then you go down to lower decks. This area is just my files. I got Nest, which is my front end that I'm using in the back. As I'm playing around, I'm going to show you that shortly. And let me see if I can pull some information here. And then I can come here, put the local on, see what that looks like. Let that load. And that looks pretty good. Set up right there. All right, so we're gonna go back. And you know, it's basic. Not all of it's fitting in the screen here. You know, you got your top portal. I can move all the stuff. It's local, as you can see right there. You pick your port and you play around with it. I don't keep this on. You know, I'm kind of just seeing what we're doing. I gotta fix some of the lettering here because it's not all showing. But I'm just kind of, let me see here. Sorry, I forgot. I'm gonna take the whole thing out of the positioning. Let me reset myself using this as my template. Use what works, right? There you go. Now that's back to normal. Probably went all over the place on the other one. That's the front. That's there. All right, we're gonna go back to this one. And you know, you got your sections you want to go to. Some of this stuff is not done, but you know, you're putting it together. You can contact an agent, and you got your dashboard. Move this off to the side because we're not using that. See, that kind of pushes that off to big time. So I'll move this a little bit so you can kind of see some stuff, you know, and it looks pretty cool. You know, just doing one thing at a time. You get to scroll. You got more content that you can ask the server or whatever you're asking. You got the footer, and you're just playing around with it, right? Let's see, put this back. So now, why are you here? You know, you're here to learn some stuff, play with the computer, have some chill vibe, and pray that whatever you ask for works. Does it? Does it? Does it really work? Let's find out. So here we are. And in this setup, I'm going to try to see how I'm going to stretch this to get closer. You know, you got your, I don't know if any of you guys ever used, let me turn this off. And you don't need that. Right? Can I go this way without it stretching? Oh no, it's perfect. So right here in this area is your timeline. I didn't make this. This came preloaded in the open code. And what you do is, I'll back out of here. And let me move this. Let me go here. We're at the bottom. Look at that. Look at that right there. Isn't that pretty? All right, you go to the bottom. And you got all these options. You just put timeline. Once you hit the timeline, did it again. You got your options that you can choose. Like for me, I say, hey, go to the beginning of this. And here at the top, you got my introduction. You just say, hey, what's up? So, my thing right now is I'm trying to have it work a little bit more efficient. So I give it its directories. Where does it have to ask? You know, But this time around, I wanted it to just be more vanilla. I wanted it to be, hey, I want to look at this transcript, right? And I want you to break it down. And when you break it down, while you're doing that, here's your thicker, stronger persona. Because what I learned, besides trying to make it, have this loop I created, because it kept crashing. That's why took me a minute to come back up here. Now I can actually do stuff and show you what I'm doing, because, when you're on ChatGPT, that's you talking to your hallucination. you know, this one, you can actually hallucinate even locally without going on the internet. But the thing I did was I didn't just sit there and just say, hey, what's up? And it replied. And then I talked again and it replied, like a one shot in a small context window. What I did was I said, what if you had a database for every time we talked? So I just put a simple script, wrote it together, and I built it, and it works. And when I'm finished, I'm going to try to see if I can put the skeleton on the internet. Because, you think about what you want to do with it. Does it work? Is it going to work? And is it reliable? So I'm working on making it at least reliable. And I'm only putting information that makes sense. And it's a long process because I'm not going to data dump, a copy paste. I want to basically put a high quality, use case idea where people can come and say, oh, I got an actual agent that's not stupid. Because if you saw me, and just go back to my lives and just, hit that right key and just scrub through half of me, wondering why. And it's not like I'm upset. I'm just curious on how the context window is. And I'm like, this thing doesn't really, I think it just rereads the same thing over and doesn't have an idea what's up. So what I did was I made it create reports while it's communicating. And it's not like a crazy, hard thing to do, because you could talk your way into what I just did. It just took me a minute to kind of like sit there, look at it. I don't know if I'm a savant or something, because if you look at the output that's sitting right here, hold on, let me just, oh, it's fucking background. Let me put a lock on that, because is that done now? I'm going to put a lock on all this stuff. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Put a lock. This is unlocked. Okay. So if you look at just this reply, first of all, what did I say? I said, if you can look in the folders, and apologize for my spelling because I'm in a weird angle and I just type the way I type because it's me. And I have the information and I say, hey, here's this folder. And I don't want it to be, I'm not telling it what to do. I'm just saying, hey. But where I put start here was me telling the system, hey, check this out. When you get here, you're like a new recruit, right? Or an employee, or whatever your use case is. So what I did was I said, all right, here's the use case. I'm going to make it real simple. And you follow this, manual, and it's your job. You can accept it, the roles and duties and all that stuff. And if you don't accept it, that's fine. We'll find somebody else. There's a lot of LLMs out there. And the way I write things is, ethical and philosophy. And, it's just some loop of how I think. And I say before you even, jump on board, read, check it out. Tell me what you think. So when it read my words, I write in story. So what I'm trying to do is, it's so bad. When I have it log in, meaning like the AI LLM, for example, if you look here, this is the model I'm using right now, right? That's the model. I'm using the right here. All local, 100% local. So, when you're talking to people and you're typing, this is how I type. I type just like this. I just hit the caps lock and I'm gone. And I tell people, hey, look, I don't, I prefer just hitting caps lock and talking to you. I'm not yelling. All right, to get to all this stuff, we're going to go back to the timeline, right? And you hit the timeline and you can just jump forward. So I asked, reply, I asked, reply, I asked, reply, meaning, let's do some work. 3 tools. So you see how it is? 1 tool, what's it doing? It's checking who's this guy. I just told him to do stuff, right? Then I talk to some more. He's like, oh my God, I got to really check who this guy is. I talk some more checking. And then he finds the welcome, right? Go through the whole scenario and he's like, oh, I'm part of this crew, And you could see the communication, evolve. Because you could do the same thing with simple LLMs that has tool calling, and not just someone saying, "Oh, this has tool calling." You need to test your LLM to make sure it does, or communicate with it and saying, "Yo, you have it. You need to stop saying, stop talking like a chat bot." So those words that you use are strict, like a business. You communicate what you want. You keep it straight. Either they're in or they're out. So, as you look at here, I came in. I wanted to, create a real, not, chatterbox of a AI like you get today. I wanted something that was clean, to the point, didn't waste my time, and can try to be as accurate as possible with the right tools. Now think about it. If you got a smart person, they'll sound smart, but they're making some errors. But you know what? They don't give a shit. They're here to tell you, hey, keep doing that. Don't worry. You're fine. You're fine. Just don't get caught. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reality. Some people get their jollies off of it, and some people are more real. In my case, you need the right information, and you don't want to give your data away. So the best way to do it is do it 100% local. So I tell people, download Ollama, right? It's free, super fast. And then download whatever works in your computer, and that's it. You can start playing with that. But if you want to go where I'm at, you need something that can actually do some tool calling. Now, the only one I actually got working right now is the GPT OSS 20B. That's it. I haven't got anything else to work. Not that I tried, because how do you know what works until you can do it and get it back? So I have 2 sessions here, and on the first session, as an example, let's start with the timeline. And in this timeline, you have the start time, right? But that's in this particular conversation. So, where did it start? You come over here, and give me a second. All right, sorry about that. Just getting some things prepped for dinner. It's about 5 o'clock here, my local time. And we're going to do the same thing here. Let me see if I can move this up. So we can start. So you're doing it like I'm doing it if you're already here. If you didn't know this had this, now you do. Hit the timeline. And you're going to go into your sessions. My day started 6:46. So you can scrub through your day. And the way I'm starting is exactly the same way I said before. I don't force an AI to do anything other than what I would want to do. So I have a conversation. And I say, hey, this is, at first I used to assume. And you can't assume anything. And in this context was just me saying good morning to Max. I'm the captain. And it progressed from there. As you're going through your morning asking questions, you could see the background of the original. Let's start from the beginning. Look at that. That was my good morning. And it gave me the generic, who's this guy? Right? Just a generic reply. So I went from there and I said, oh, time to report for duty. You're technically like an hour and 47 minutes late. Do you copy? And you can see him changing. Yes, Captain, I'm ready to proceed. And we'll get on top of the remaining duties. I already read his memory, but just, not memory, his thinking. So just take a look at how he's replying. Get on top of it, the remaining duties immediately. Because I'm already telling him, hey, you're an hour and a half late. And he's like, is there any specific task you'd like me to, prioritize? I mean, he's not fooling around. Anyway, I gave him the paperwork, and what is funny is when I always talk to people, I say, choose your words, right? Choose your words. If you ever listen to any of the crap I ever talk about on this channel, I always say choose your words. Because you never know, man. There's so many people listening. So, you hear him. I apologize for the oversight. Because, I'm over here asking, what's that? You know what I mean? And he's like, and I said, do you do what I ask you to do? And he's like, I will review. He hasn't done anything. Right? Because, he read something that says, oh, I'm in charge. And I got to do stuff. But you got to push him to look in certain places. Anyway, what I used to do was I say, hey, go here, go there. And then he's still the vanilla, if you understand what I'm saying. And I said to him, use full caps. Okay? You're talking to me. Do you copy? I say right here. Get it together and thank you. Good morning. Right? And look at him. He's like, dude, that's nothing. And for me, I have to, I don't know if mine's messed up or something. I got an issue with this install. But I have to force my shift key to type in full caps. So as we're perusing in this morning conversation, I'm asking for things. So I'm going to write what I want. I want it, I want him to understand what your stack is. I'm using a program inside of another program, using someone else's software, communicating through a multitude of stuff to make this idea what I call the Maxx-R1 Subnet. And then me, the user, captain, ready to go. Right? And I asked him, I said, bro, where's your thinking? Is it, because I already see his thinking. So I'm like, is it low, medium, high? And he's like, oh, it's high. I was like, okay, no problem. So moving on. And to let you know, I'm using the page up, page down on the open code. So I'd like to welcome everybody here to the channel. Just trying this new format because I was just doing a lot of things over here, and now I got it working, and here we are. All right, so as you look at this page, you can look. His replies are on point. He'll call you what you want. I asked for captain because I'm trying to just do something here, and I want like a chain of command. I love Star Trek, and this is not affiliated with Star Trek. You know, it has a lot of similarities, but so does Apex and what do you call it? Farlight 84. If you ever saw that rabbit hole. Anyway, so you see him because I told him, I said, did you really read that? You know, you back up one page where you can see his communication is very, you know, and then you got mine saying, hey, you need to talk to me in caps, and I'm going to scroll up because I don't think you saw it. And he's like, oh, you got it. Right? And then, you know, I continue my session, but, you know, you can see him from this to, hey, wake up. I have 1 communication, 2 communication, 3 communication. Now I'm at the 4th time. You know, I don't know about you, but if you're an officer, I'm pretty sure you don't want to repeat yourself 4 times and say, bro, you're on a star fleet, or you're on a starship, or this is our fleet, you know? And just to let people who can't hear in the back, because I have a brother and sisters that have hearing disability. But let me tell you, I think of all of these things. So you got, right? Again with my spelling. And I don't want to hit the button here. You got that, the Starfleet. But for us, we have our fucking A, this goddamn keyboard, our fleet. Right? And that's how I look at it when I play around with this stuff. And I am. That's all I'm doing. I'm really just playing around. But I want you to just see some key things on here. Because look at it. He was just talking to me. You know, this is out the box. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Good morning, Captain. How can I assist you today? All nonchalant. And I'm like, time to report for duty, man. You're 1 hour and 47 minutes late. You copy? And he's like, yes, Captain. I'm ready to proceed. And I'm like, you are not replying in proper protocol. Please review your persona and the PDR protocols we took all week to create. Thank you, Captain. And he's like, I apologize for the oversight, Captain. You know, I will review them. Oh, you're talking to me. You didn't do it yet. You know, and now you got the, hey, stop talking and start doing the way you're supposed to be. Because if you leave that area that you're in and you walk in and read what I'm asking, he reads the sheet, and you know the default says, "Hey, you're the primary agent, and you're gonna delegate," and he delegates. But before we can do all of that stuff, you need a team. So, what kind of team are you looking to build? Right? When you look at, let me see where this center. Let me put the timeline back on so I can at least center my screen. Oh no, that's perfect. So I'm going to back out of that. So that, just to run through the numbers on the open code, that's your timeline, right? And this gives you the up through the scrubbing of your conversation. And my conversation started at 6:46. I was already up. I was making coffee. I looked at it. It said it was going to do something and it failed. And I was like, it's all right. You know, I'm going to make my coffee. And, you know, you can scrub through your conversation, hit the enter button, and you're in. And this is all with the GPT. And let me see if I have it here. Do I have it? Yeah, I do. So Doing the same thing with this now. Dude, what is up with this fucking thing, bro? I'm trying to grab it, and I can't move it. Because I locked it. Stupido, coño, te brutiski. Alright, so you have this right here. And right now we don't have a model running, because you could see in this area it's pretty much flatline, right? The encoder part right here is just, you know, me streaming. Right? This is all streaming stuff. But when you go to the GPU, you can see there's only 2.2. There's nothing going on. Now, we're going to go to set up the... let me see if I can do a fresh one, and you can watch how it goes. Let me get this out the way. And I'll lock that up. I don't know if you can see this. Yes, you can. So I start my morning like this. You put open code. I'm putting open code in the middle of nowhere. Open code. And this will load up. And the way I have this load up is across my screen. If I can make it just fit. Let me see how I can do this. That's good enough. So, this is your area where it starts all your prompts, and we'll just do the hello. I don't know if any of this works yet, but hello, Max, right? So I'm going to make this a little smaller because I don't think it's popping in the screen. Let me do it like that. And then... see if I get his little name in there. And since I'm not using this, I'm going to change it to this. So you guys have a nice background, right? We're in lower decks right now. We got to build all this stuff. So, and don't laugh. I've never had an opportunity to watch one episode of that yet. And one day, you know what I mean? So, you're going to give it an opportunity to kick on, right? You can see right here that it is now loaded. I changed it from this hard drive to this hard drive, but look, they're both going because they're basically saying, oh, we got to read all this stuff. And the important thing right now is just the context window. And right now, it doesn't have one yet. No. A lot of stuff happening here. And you know what? I'm going to change this because I got it running at 1080p and I don't really need it at 1080p because we're not watching the video. Look at that! He says hello. So what do? So I normally come over to my let me move this over here. I normally come into the section here so I can, you know, tell them, hey, I want to have you read something. So what do? I go to upper deck. Upper deck are, you know, they're decks, right? So you're going to have deck 1, deck 2, deck 3, deck 4. I don't know how many yet. Well, this is a work in progress. So now you got sections, section 1, section 2. I don't know if there's anything here. I didn't really put anything there. But this is my section, right? This is the crew quarters in the section 1, right? And when you click on here, you got the captain's quarters. Now, the captain's quarters got your captain logs, all your docs, who you're reporting to. You got your storage locker when you're trying to sort stuff, you know. And this is nothing special. This is just your browser looking at your computer, you know. And I want to know do I have it on here? Yeah, I do. Move this over, and that's it. So when you are talking to Max, which is, you know, this area right here, this is the back. These are your folders. I'm trying to make it pretty so that when you're watching these videos, right, it's clean to understand. You can get right to the point. I don't have to fidget around too much. So you got your captain's log, all your docs. You got your TTIs, things to implement. I just started, you know, this is how I think. Thoughts and strategies, right? Structure, strategies, and finals. So you go to your captain's log. Well, you got to have stuff, right? All this is not me. I wrote a couple of these, and I said, can you do it like this? And he's like, yeah, I can do that. A little bit pretty good. So I'm looking at the screen to see where it cuts off, because when I click this and you read it, it goes into a off to the side, because it's not HTML. This is like you're reading documents, but through your browser. I don't know if anybody remembers you could do that. So these are the more information that we're going to be using. So you got your communications channels, right? You got your crew manifest. All of this stuff, all of this right now was me telling him hello, and he didn't read anything. He just says, oh, there's a bunch of shit here. He's like, I got to read stuff. So when I go over to, you know, my files and I say, hey, I need you to read these things. So how do you get it? You go to status report, and I don't think I have, did I put it in here? That's interesting. I've been moving stuff around. I hope I didn't foobarred. I think I did. All right. I'm going to look locally because, you know, there's some specifics that you refuse to allow to see on the browser. So I'm just, I'm double checking. I'm like, do I even got these files here? So there's deck 1, deck 2, deck 3, captain's quarters. Oh, captain's logs. Yeah. So I go here, go to my captain's logs, right? So I'm side by side looking at my back end and this screen of yours. So now I go to my status report, and they are empty. Interesting. Wow. I'm over here looking for my specific files, and the ones I need is not in the spot that I remember leaving it. I know this morning I wanted to move them, so just bear with me. What is up with my internet, man? I'm not even streaming that hard. That's why you gotta put a leash on these You gotta. This dude is good, but it's moving stuff again. And you have to. Alright, when you have, you know, a system and you have AI and you're like, hey, do this, do that. And if you don't fill in those hypothetical gaps, you know what I mean? It's gonna just create fiction. And if you're specific, it'll go, okay, we'll do that, and it'll it'll move your stuff, and you're like, no, don't do that. And I had some files that I wanted to do, and it literally just moved it out of exactly where I wanted it. So I'm trying to have it revert until it wakes up. Because if this is doing what I think it just did, then there's no demo. We're just gonna, you know, shut it down and call it. But we'll see what's the question. And it's gonna lag a little bit because mine was a very strong question. And now it's like, what do we do? I asked for it to grab files and put it in my area. And sometimes it'll just say, oh, you mean just put it all over yada yada land. And I'm like, no, don't touch my room where the files are unless I specifically tell you. But that's the ChatGPT or whatever the hell you're working with when you're dealing with this kind of structure. And I can't, you know, I lost counts of my fingers how many times you want to like rip this thing apart, and you're like, and it's automated, you know. So I'm over here trying to, man, what the hell's so slow right now? This thing is like really fucking slow. All right, so your peak for what? Why are you at 100? Yeah, we're gonna find out today because it's doing a search. And it's doing it in real time. So I'm gonna just back out of that. Stop. Just stop. Just fucking stop. Because. Alright, so I'm gonna ask real simple, because doing that just gave it 8,000 in the context window. And what I need is not that. I want my files. And I'm going to just say